for participating in our HusKAL. Go Big Red!
Okay, it's time for week 2 of the Fields Forever Cowl. This week's pattern is called X's and O's, as you can see. It's this section here of our cowl, so it will not take you very long to do this portion. It is, if we look at our pattern, your pattern again will have your A, B, and C. You're using the same thing, so you should be okay for knowing which colors are correct colors. But you will knit 3 rounds with color A. And then, as last week, you can follow either the chart or the written instructions. Don't forget to knit these first 3 rounds. And then this is a 7-round section with 3 plain rounds at the end. Look at the back and you'll see your chart. And again, make sure that you're paying attention to the colors. One thing you'll note is that this is a 20 stitch. So your markers that you've got for every 8 stitches, you'll want to replace them if you liked using the markers for to designate your different sections. Here's my week 1. You can see that the stranded knitting looks a little bit puckery, but it's not too tight. This will steam out beautifully, and we'll show you that in the next couple weeks, what it looks like to steam. I did not cut the gray because the next color I will use for the X's and O's will be the gray. So you might recall that I mentioned that I did cut the white, but I did not cut the gray. I'm simply carrying the gray up. It's waiting for me here, and it will be ready to do the X's and O's. I'm going to get started on that first round, and then I'll come back and talk a little bit about stranded knitting again, and give you a few tips on the X's and the O's. Okay, I've knit my 3 plain rounds, and then I've knit my first round of the X's and O's. And so I'm going to demonstrate the Continental stranded knitting again. After teaching it on the Zoom and in person, there were several tips that I kind of discovered were helpful for folks. So I want to review that with you again. One of the things I think that's important is that if you can learn to do the Continental stranding, it will make your stranded knitting go quicker. There's no reason that you can't do it other ways, but what I discovered in teaching the classes is a lot of people had tried it and then tried it again and then tried it again and really kind of had a breakthrough with it. So our next chart is round 2. So I'm going to set that up here so that I can see it. And again, when I tension my yarns, I like to have them over to the left of my desk or table that I'm working at. I smooth the yarns out a bit, and then I loop the yarn around the pinky underneath and over, giving the finger to make it more of a shuttle, kind of splitting the yarns. One of the things when you're looping that yarn, if you start down low, it's hard to move up. But if I always start way up here, because I can always move it down. So when I go to tension my yarn, I scoop it towards me, under 2, over 1, and put the middle finger between the 2 and create that shuttle of the yarn that's right there, okay? And now I'm going to knit 2 red and knit 2 gray. The other thing that's important with this, and the thing that I discovered with in teaching people, is you've got to keep your finger down. And so knit 2 red, and you'll notice that I have just a little bit of lift there with my finger. 2 gray, 2 gray, 1 red, 2 gray, and 4 red. Don't forget to give your stitches a little bit of a stretch out so that you keep your floats. You see that gray fell off. I just reached down and grab it. The mistake that a lot of folks make when they're doing stranded knitting is they do what I call get too tall. So when you get tall like this, then you don't have as much control over your yarns. And so it becomes a little bit more loose, and it's just not quite as easy, and they tend to, is easy to tension, and they tend to fall off. So the best way that you can practice your stranded knitting is when you feel if your finger's getting too tall, that you drop it, retension it, drop it, retention it. That's the only way to really build your muscle memory, so that it's set and ready for you to go. And I think I'm off. Well, let's see, this should have been 3. So I'll take that back. We'll do 2 gray. And then now I've got the 2 red. You see that I've got the stitches of 20, so that just helps me know where I'm going to be at. One of the things that you could consider, we talked about customizing charts. And so you will get that in the hat. There will be different patterns that come with the hat. But if you decided you wanted to do something different in this 7 rows, 20 stitch, or 120 stitches round, you could design your own pattern in there. One note of caution is that you need to keep the yarn management the same so that your background color is doing most of the stitches, or you run the risk of maybe having coming short on yarn. We really designed this to have a lot of yarn, not a lot, but ample yarn left over for you. So you can make some changes, but it can't be like all solid, because then you will run the chance that you might run out of yarn. But that's always going to be an option for you. I hope your stranded knitting is going well. Good luck with your X's and O's. And next week, you'll get your 3rd and final pattern for the cowl.